5-country tour around the Middle East in 2007. Dubai, Lebanon, Egypt, Kuwait, and Jordan. 20,000 people.
That's crazy.
27 shows in 30 days. It was crazy. And they shot it as a TV show. And then we split up, the Axis of Evil, and just kind of went our own way.
And so the Axis of Evil was yourself, it was Aaron Cater, Wonho.
Maz Jobrani and Wonho.
And Maz Jobrani, okay.
And Wonho ended up becoming a big star in the Middle East.
Right,
after
yeah.
that tour, yeah.
Yeah.
He's multi-talented. He can sing, he can dance, he can act.
Well, I've seen him in a couple of shows as well, Arabic shows, which really,
his Arabic is better than most Arabs.
Mine, yeah, it's definitely better than mine. You know,
if you don't know who Wonho Chung is, he's a South Korean, born in Saudi, raised in Jordan. He speaks better Arabic than most Arabs.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, he's incredible. Like you said, he's multi-talented. I think Maz Jobrani as well. I've seen him do a couple of shows after that. And I'm not sure about Aaron Cater. I think he came out to Dubai at some point after that as well. But so you guys took a decision to split up. And so why did that decision come about? Were you like, all right, we're going to go do our own thing? And is there like a reunion at some point where you feel like, okay, we should bring the band back together? Or,
you know, it's interesting because we never, like, when we started doing the Axis of Evil, we never predicted it would have the legs that it had.
Okay.
We kind of went into it blindly and innocently. And then it just became this big phenomenon, you know, amongst the Middle Eastern and Arab culture.
Right.
And then, like with any band, you know, egos get in the way, backstabbing and back-talking and, you know, shit like that. And it just, for me, comedy should be fun. It shouldn't be, you know, it shouldn't be a threatening sport. It should be something that's a collaborative kind of thing. Unfortunately, stand-up comedy, like swimming or golf or wrestling, it's a one-man sport.
Absolutely.
So, or one-woman sport. So, it's not really, it wasn't a team effort. And you know, not to name any names, but there was some in-house fighting that it just didn't play out the way we would have liked it to.
Right.
I think if we would have stayed together, we probably could have sold stadiums, maybe, big theaters. But it had a great run. We had a great, I think, 7-year run. We all went off to do our own thing, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have worked with those guys. And there was some talks about doing a reunion tour because it's been 10 years. Wow, so I wouldn't say no to it.
Yeah.
You know, I believe in, you know, water under the bridge and forgiveness and moving forward and growing, that kind of thing. So,
that'd be really cool, though. And the time kind of feels right as well, right? Yeah. I mean you did it at the time where I think the political situation.
Well, President Bush was our...
Right, and now it's like almost went full circle back to that point.
Then we had a president, you know, Barack Obama, that you couldn't really make fun of.
Right, like that kind of killed comedy.
Articulate, good looking, you know, well spoken, like he, you know, family man, like he just wasn't funny.
Right, yeah.
You know, and then Donald Trump came into office and it was like, everybody went crazy over
Get the band back together.
Let's get the band back together, yeah. So, I mean, who knows? You know, I'm open to it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, so it's funny, you're talking about the LA comedy scene, and I was telling you just before the podcast that I find the LA comedy scene to be a very interesting, you know, and mysterious scene to me, you know, because I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan, and I hear him talk a lot about, you know, the improv, and he talks a lot about the Comedy Store, and I was just in LA a few months ago, my wife and I was walking down Sunset Strip, and then I saw the Laugh Factory there, and I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan, and I just saw that Joe Rogan was playing that night, and I was like, I gotta get the tickets, and I went and I watched, and I think Brian Callen was there as well.
Yeah,
he was hilarious.
Very funny.
So funny. So I just find that scene to be very, I mean, organic in a way, because these are comedians who are trying to make it and they're trying to like carve their own way. And at the same time, it's just, you know, the biggest stars come out of there. So what are your thoughts on that scene? And you as a person who was participating in that scene, how did that feel for you? And was the struggle, you know, real, if you will?
You know, I came into the comedy scene in LA in the late 90s.
Okay.
And Mitzi Shore, who's the owner of the Comedy Store, who was hands-on back then, she's the one who passed me. She's the one who gave me the blessing. And she was actually the sort of brainchild around Axis of Evil. It was originally called Arabian Nights.
Okay.
And once we started getting some attention around us, Maz Jobrani called me and said, hey, I'm Iranian. A lot of Iranians are complaining about the name because I'm not Arab.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, we can just change the name. I don't care. It's more about the content than it was the name.
Yeah.
And then when President Bush coined the phrase Axis of Evil, we just took it,
Right.
put Comedy Tour in the end, and it became what it was.
Right.
When I first started in the LA comedy scene, I thought it was a more sort of organic type of industry to be in. I was working at both clubs. On any given Friday or Saturday night, I would have my name on both marquees. I felt like I made it. I felt like I arrived.
So this is the improv and...
Improv, I never was really getting a lot of love with the improv in the beginning.
Okay. So which clubs were you talking about?
So Laugh Factory and Comedy Store.
Okay.
But Comedy Store was my home.
Okay.
And then about a couple...
It's a legendary club, though, right?
Yeah, Richard Pryor, Robin Williams, Sam Kinison.
Yeah.
They all came out of there. About a year and a half ago, there was a sort of changing of the guards. Mm-hmm. So a lot of comics kind of got, not a lot, but some of us got phased out.
Right. To bring in new talent. Is that...
To bring in new talent and to bring in names.
Okay.
And, I had just come off a TV series called Sullivan and Son.
Yeah.
That was executive produced by Vince Vaughn and Peter Billingsley.
Okay.
And Rob Long, who produced the show Cheers.
Uh-huh.
And in Hollywood, when you're hot, and when you're not, you're not.
Right.
And there are a lot of politics in comedy, believe it or not.
Interesting.
Whether you're funny or not, these days it's sort of how many credits do you have, how many Instagram followers do you have, how many YouTube hits do you have, what's your social media platform like, who's representing you, what agencies and managers are behind you. So for me, it got a little sort of watered down, and it became delusional for a minute.
Okay.
Because then it was a little bit of a political scene that was happening.
Right.
And the shoe didn't fit anymore. So I decided to go to New York. I went to New York last year.
Right.
And the thing I like about New York compared to LA, in LA, because there's only 3 major clubs, Improv, Comedy Store, Laugh Factory, in Hollywood, you do a set and then you kind of linger. You kind of just hang.
Right.
Whereas in New York, you do a set and then boom, you're going to the next club.
Okay.
So you can do 5, 6, 7 spots a night in New York. You'd be lucky to do 3 or 4 spots a night in LA because LA is so spread out.
Uh-huh.
So I went to New York and I started getting love at the Comedy Cellar and
which is a legendary comedy club.
Yeah,
as well, right?
I was very, very blessed to get spots there, and on any given night, you'd see Jeff Ross, Chris Rock, Jerry Seinfeld, Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart.
Damn.
And I was kind of like, okay,
that's exciting. That's
it was cool.
Really exciting. Yeah.
And so I felt myself really becoming a comic in New York City, whereas in LA, people are just kind of looking to get recognized.
Uh-huh.
You definitely have comics who have that work ethic and write, and but I feel like New York is more of a working comics atmosphere, and LA is kind of like, how do I get noticed?
Right.
Kind of thing. How do I showcase and get a TV deal?
Super interesting.
They say in the comedy world, you go to New York to build an act. You go to LA to sell it.
Uh-huh.
So I was in New York for a year. I got a little tired of the LA comedy scene. It became too enclosed for me. Mm-hmm. And then, the problem too is people get too used to you, if you're not in and out. It's the old saying, familiarity breeds contempt.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So I was feeling that a lot. I was too accessible, I thought.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And I'm, I don't like to bow down to everybody. I like to have my own opinion and not be so quick to just jump on the bandwagon like everybody else. Mm. So, people can view that as being difficult or stubborn or whatever names I've been called. I've been called 1,000 names. At least they're calling me names.
Which is good. That's good.
No, but it's like, I just feel like there's a moment in your life and your career when it's okay to just say no.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. That's not on my diet. That's not what I'm looking to do. And so I'd gone to New York, and New York just was a breath of fresh air.
So you're based out of New York right now?
Well, so when I was in New York, I was down in the Village doing stand-up comedy around the clubs. And I met these two promoters. One guy, his name's Jamie Gong, out of Hong Kong.
Okay.
Who's a comic. Jamie Gong out of Hong Kong.
Right. Yeah. You're never going to forget that.
Never forget that. And this guy, Turner Sparks, who is a comic and booker out of mainland China. And they asked me if I wanted to go to China.
Wow.
This was in December of 2016.
Okay.
And so I said, sure. So the dates, were early and end of October. So they were bookending the whole month. I needed something to fill it.
Right.
So I ended up getting booked in Malaysia, Singapore, and Philippines. So I just got back, not just, this last October. I was in mainland China, Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, and Hong Kong. And I spent a month there. But while I was in Malaysia, I was working with this really awesome company called LOL Events.
Okay.
And they produce comedy events, and they do this thing called Stand Up Asia where they work with local comics. And they know that I also produce and direct and that kind of thing. And, we were just kind of talking over dinner one night, and they were like, what's your plan for 2018? And I said, I don't know. I'm just probably going to stay in New York and grind it out. And they had asked me if I'd be interested in coming to Malaysia to produce and direct, local talent.
Wow.
So I said yes. So I'm going to Malaysia.
Wow.
In January to wear that hat, and I'll still do stand-up. But
So you're going to settle down in Malaysia?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a year. Have you been to Malaysia?
I've never been to Malaysia, no.
Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia is one of the coolest cities on the planet.
I heard really good things,
I've been to like 25, 26, I think, countries. Malaysia is cool because it's a third world country, but it's very modern in the sense that it has, a nightlife and a sort of entertainment culture. And,
Right.
So I took the offer, and I'm going to be in Malaysia, just strictly bringing talent over from the U.S. and producing specials and content and just trying to help build the comedy scene in Asia, which is booming.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the whole Asian region is just spectacular. If you've ever been, it's really cool.
I've been to Hong Kong before, and I can see why it makes sense in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong has that grit.
Yeah.
It has that...
It's like New York City.
It has a lot of like New York feel to it. So I could see why like a comedy scene would work in Hong Kong. I was in New York for a while with my wife. I mean, we just went to visit maybe like 5 times. We absolutely love New York. So and that's why you say the Comedy Cellar. For me, there's a lot of like good memories for me attached to the Comedy Cellar. And we've seen Jerry Seinfeld. He had a residency in the Beacon Theater for a good year, I think, or something like that. So we got some tickets and we watched we watched Jerry Seinfeld there. So I think it's very interesting that you had both experiences in both cities, and you got 2 completely different outcomes from both. I mean, that's
look, I'm not going to take anything away from LA. I grew up in Southern California. My family's there. My best friends live there. Some of my best friends, but I just felt like I outgrew it.
Right. No, I completely get that.
And I'm 47 now, so it's like, all right, well, what's next for me? And so I just felt like there wasn't anything else I could do in LA. I felt like I did as much as I could do. So I packed up my bags. I went to New York, kind of started from scratch. But it was while I was in New York that I found these promoters from China in Hong Kong.
So they came out to watch you at one of the gigs?
They were they live in New York.
Oh, wow.
Actually, Jamie Gong is from New York.
Oh, okay.
And then he moved back to Hong Kong to start the comedy scene. Like, he single-handedly runs the comedy scene in Hong Kong.
That's a great opportunity, I think.
It's great. So I did a whole run there. But had I not gone to New York and met these guys and gone to China and around Asia and Malaysia, I probably wouldn't have gotten this job offer to go to Malaysia. So,
Right.
And I absolutely fell in love with Malaysia. I mean, first of all, the people that I'm going to work with are super cool. They bring out big acts: Gabriel Iglesias, Russell Peters, Jeff Dunham, David Blaine, Maz. They brought me out a couple times, one time, back in 2012.
Okay.
And so 6 years had gone by, and while I was in Malaysia, I did like a 450 seat theater.
Wow.
And it was great. The crowds were great, and Malaysia is I think number 4 tourist destination right now in the world. There's so much to do, and it's an hour from Thailand, Bali, Singapore, 3-hour flight to Philippines, Japan, China. So it's kind of the hub of Asia.